welcome to my studio. I'm a local artist in Silversmith, and I'd like to show you around and show you a few things that inspire me. Collecting things has been a part of my life since I was a little girl. I first collected rocks, but I love found objects, so I'm always seeking, I'm always looking for new things, for actual objects on the ground, in the park, at the beach. Just to let you know, I would never kill anything or hurt any animals. These are sort of remnants from years ago. And also I collect images on social media, on Pinterest and so forth, but just to show you a couple of things. So you can see these are a lot of shells, and they're bones and skulls and pine cones and stuff, things that speak to me when I see them and resonate with me as an artist. So two of my biggest influences over the years have been Alexander Calder, who's most famous for inventing the mobile, I think. Something that a lot of people don't know about him is that he made many household objects. He designed all kinds of intimate, cool things like toys out of found objects, whatever he could find. And he just had, I think, such a playful, fun, and beautiful approach to his work that has been very influential. Georgia O'Keeffe is also one of my biggest art heroes, and I love her work for the beauty, the color, but the level of abstraction of her pieces. And I love what she's left out as much as what she's put in. In order to make this bangle bracelet, I'd like to show you this tank. This is actually an acetylene tank. It's called a B tank. It's the same tank of gas a plumber uses, actually. But this is a rig that's attached to it, which is called a silversmithing rig. This is a silversmithing torch. Once we know the gas is flowing, the next thing we want to do is light the torch. And this is the striker, which creates a spark that lights the torch. And this part of the flame here at the end of the blue cone there is the hottest part of this flame, and that is what you want to flow the solder with, that part of the torch. So there's the torch. And now let me just show you what we're doing. So we're gonna make this, which is just a plain bangle bracelet. This one happens to be 24 karat rose gold, so it's plated. I made this in red brass, which is this stuff here that I get from a supplier in New York City, metalliferous. So I make it out of this, and then I send it off to a plater. The first thing we want to do for a size medium bracelet is we want to cut 8 inches of the red brass. So I'm going to measure it here, and I'm going to cut it with some nippers. So it's kind of thick. There we go. So we're going to take this, and the first thing we want to do is we want to file the ends to 90 degrees so they're going to meet properly. I usually just take a file. I kind of use my bench pin here. Put these glasses on too, so I can see. And I'm going to use this kind of as a flush surface, and I'm going to file this in one direction away from me until it's 90 degrees with the bench pin. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it should meet the other side fairly nicely. Then we flip it over to the other side. And we're going to do the same here. Okay, so now it's approximately 90 degrees, so we have this. I'm just going to bend it around and make kind of a long oval for this. Okay. And what you want to do is have the ends meet, so that when you solder it, they're not going to move You want them to meet nicely, like that. And then I'm gonna put it here on my third hand, this is called, which basically just is that. It just holds it for you while you're soldering. And you want this to be level because gravity is solder's friend. So where, solder will flow to the lowest point. So I'm going to take some flux, which is like a lubricant. I'm going to put it here in the solder joint. Then I'm going to take a couple of chips of medium solder and I'm going to place them on the joint here. I think I would use about 3 chips for this because it's a fairly large joint. Okay, so we're about to solder this bangle bracelet. The first thing I need to do is grab these optimizers so I can see what I'm doing. And then I am going to light the torch with my striker. You can hear the gas coming out, and then you can see when it's lit. And this is the fun part, being a metalsmith, really with fire. So, I'm going to take it in my left hand, on the lefty, and I'm going to take a soldering pick, and what I'm going to do is heat up the bracelet for a couple minutes. And the purpose of this is that the metal is a great conductor of heat, so that when you're heating the whole piece, that will transfer the heat to the solder without really heating up the solder too much. You don't want to heat up the solder too much because it will ball up or it won't flow properly. So you want to heat the whole piece until the solder flows. So you can see as I'm heating this, the metal is getting, you can see a little darker there, and same on the other side. So I heat gently. You can see it changing color a little bit. I'm going to get down here a little closer so I can see what's going on. And then I'm going to heat the joint back and forth. I'm not going to concentrate the heat right on the joint, but I'm going to move it back and forth until the solder flows. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but there it goes. There it goes. It went. You want to fill up the whole joint, and then you take away the heat. And let's take a look at that. These are copper tongs, and I pick up the metal with copper because you don't want to pick it up with any metal that reacts. I quench it with water to cool it down. And there it is, step 1 of this. Solder joint looks pretty good. And I'm going to take it over here. And this is my pickle pot. And what this does is once you solder a piece of metal, you want to submerge it in the pickle. This is an acid, a mild acid solution, which cleans it and removes any oxidation. And you just let it sit in there. This is reasonably hot. This is just a crock pot, a standard crock pot. And I have one, this is for non-ferrous metals, and then this is a nickel pickle, and nickel has iron in it, so nickel is also a common, something that a lot of people are allergic to, so I don't use the nickel pickle or nickel very often, but occasionally I will use it. So that's nickel pickle, this is non-ferrous, this is for silver and gold. So let's see what happened here. So, it doesn't take too long to clean it if the pickle is hot. I'm going to run it under some water. And then, I'm going to take a brass brush and a little bit of palm olive. And we're going to clean it under the water. Let's see what the situation is here. See how it looks. Dry it off. And you can see it looks pretty good so far. So far, so good. So after that, what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna bend it a little bit. Feels still pretty stiff because it's a thick gauge of metal. And then I'm gonna put it on this. This is a bracelet mandrel for forming. This is made out of steel. It's for forming metal. Slip it on kind of over this. And I use a rawhide mallet at first. I'm gonna pound it. It's a little noisy. So I use this first because it doesn't work harden the metal that much. This is softer, and the more I hammer this, the harder the metal gets until I have to anneal it, which means heat it up to a certain temperature to soften the metal again. And so we don't want to do that. So I'm gonna hammer with the rawhide mallet. Let me take this off here. And switch to glasses. So, you can see it's almost round, but not exactly. So at this point, actually I'm going to take this steel block. I'm going to put the bracelet on the block. And this will be loud. I'm going to start hammering it so it's flat, and then I'll put it back on the mandrel. Okay, I'm going to switch to the other side. So you can see it looks pretty flat. Put it back on the mandrel here. And then so the next thing we want to do is file the solder joint. Take again our file, switch to the Optivisors. We want to get, this is a half round file so that I can file the inside of the bracelet at the proper angle. File the inside. And then file a little bit on the outside. Okay. And then at this point we're going to sand. Just to show you, this is sandpaper that I use, and it's different grits. It starts out, I usually start out at 280, 320, 400, 600, 800, and 1500, depending on the project. So the lower numbers are the coarser grit, and the higher numbers are the finer grit. So I have my 220 sandpaper on the mandrel, and I'm going to sand the inside of the bracelet. Looking good, and we'll put it back, I think, on this steel plate. Okay, maybe one more round on the mandrel, and then I think we'll sand and texture the final bracelet. Looking good. And we will switch to a higher sandpaper. We're gonna do 600 now on the inside. Insert the 600 into the mandrel here. And okay. Now we're going to switch to 1500 sandpaper for the final sanding. So this has a nice shine in the inside after the 1500 sandpaper. And now I'm going to texture it using a planishing hammer. And this hammer has one side that is flatter, that spreads the metal smoothly, and the other side is rounded, as you can see, and makes little divots in the surface of the metal, which then reflect light. And it has a very beautiful animated surface, which is what I'd like for this piece. I love the texture on this piece. You can see how it reflects light, and this is one of my signature textures. I love to leave the mark of the maker on the piece. It lets you know that it's handmade and somebody's creative energy went into this piece, and that's an important part of my work. So anyway, there we are. And now we're going to sand it one more time in the inside with our 1500 sandpaper. You can see now a beautiful contrast between the very smooth inside of the piece and the divoted outside. And one final step and we're finished with this. I will run it under water, put a little palm olive on it, take our brass brush here and brass brush it, get it nice and shiny and ready for plating. Okay, I lied to you, and there is actually one final step after this, but we don't need to do that today. This gives you a good idea of the finished product. And after this, actually, the final step I use is I would put this piece in a tumbler. This is a barrel, small barrel tumbler that you put a burnishing compound inside and some steel shot. This is the steel shot that I use inside this barrel tumbler, and I put the pieces and tumble them for approximately 45 minutes to an hour, and then I package this up and send it out to the plater. And that's it. Thank you so much.